As you can tell by the caption, it's going to be the topic: how to actually improve AI models. Now, the uncomfortable truth here is improving AI models is less about making them smarter and more about making them honest. To be honest with you, uh, even more grounded in some aspects. So what I'm going to do here is I have some notes here. I'm going to try and break it down for you guys to where people actually know how to actually improve their AI model so they know when to slow down, verify, deter, and actually sound like they're actually being a real person or an actual human. So, like I was saying, I'm going to break this down, no lab coat. It's going to be in layman's terms, plain English for you guys. And hopefully, you guys actually got some pen and pad ready for this because you guys actually may want to take notes. So the first principle here I have here from actually doing 2 years of actually studying this whole AI model is you're not actually teaching AI like an actual person. What you're doing is you're shaping the environment that AI actually operates in. So think less coach and more systems architect. When AI responds, whether you use Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, Anthropic, Notion, uh, did I say Gemini? Yeah, Gemini. When you're using those to respond, you want to have it respond with a structure, some sort of incentive, or even a constraint. And when those actually become cleaner, AI, the model that you use, actually seems a hell of a lot smarter. Again, excuse the frame rate here. I don't know what's going on. The frame rate seems to be a little too high. I thought I set it a little bit lower, but it seems like the frame rate's too high. So excuse that. But like I was saying, the AI does look a lot smarter. Now, when they are sloppy, they look confident, but a lot of people can tell that they are wrong. For instance, now, even though this example I'm about to give you guys, it wasn't wrong. I actually asked ChatGPT one day because that's the main AI system that I use to not to rewrite, but to see if what I made, what post I actually used, sounded like it was written by AI, and it I wrote this out myself. I didn't use AI. I didn't use. This was actually the last blog post that I made. It was really about uh, case studies from 2024 and 2025. I asked it, does this sound like AI wrote it? And the response it gave me was, yeah, even though you wrote it yourself, it sounds like AI wrote it. So that right there let me know that the constraint on the model that I was using still needed to be tweaked. So that's pretty much what I'm actually doing right now with my AI system. So the best way to actually do this, to get it to work with these constraints and these incentives and to actually build a structure behind it, what you want to do is you want to start with inputs. Now, AI only works with what you give it. So if you put in garbage, you're going to get out garbage. So if your prompt, in other words, is vague, conflicted, or emotionally loaded, it's going to literally mirror that chaos right back to you. And it's going to be spit out back to you in a really polished sentence. Believe it or not, there have been times where I've actually looked at people's posts online and had ChatGPT spit it back out, and it literally was telling me how it was not emotionally loaded, but it was more not opinionated. But what's the word I'm looking for? What is the word I'm looking for? It was more or less like, damn, what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. Emotionally charged. That's the word I'm looking for. It was more or less emotionally charged. Uh, Another word, emotionally loaded. So yeah. So in other words, it's going to spit that back out to you in polished sentences, right? But the fastest way to improve output is to slow down and specify the intent you have, whatever it is that you're prompting the AI to do. This is going to tell AI the goal. Tell AI the goal. Tell AI the type of audience you're trying to reach. Tell AI what kind of constraints you want to put on it. Do you want it to sound a certain way? What kind of tone do you want to put behind it? And those are going to incorporate to what you're going to also want it to make it seem like what you want the success to look like, what the result is going to be, what the goal is going to be that you're going to want out of this. So, like I was saying before, I'm going to try and put this in layman's terms for you. In layman's terms, clear instructions beat clever ones every time. In other words, like I was saying before in the beginning, you put in garbage, you're going to get back garbage. Try to be as clear and concise as you possibly can when entering in your prompts, entering in your requests, entering in your questions, doing research. Do whatever it is that you can to make it seem like you're going to be concise with every little detail. And from there, you're going to actually get back the type of response you're going to want. Now, mind you, a lot of people say that AI gives you the answer that you're looking for, but once you actually put the input in, for instance, one of my inputs in was to remain skeptical, to question everything, always research and fact check everything that I input into my AI model, because I don't want my AI model to just agree with me all the time. A lot of people put in prompts or ask AI questions or find out if a false statement is true, and it will literally spit back that false statement was actually true. So what you want to do is go into your personal settings and have your AI be skeptical. Have your AI always question whatever it is that you're inputting in, so you can get that proper response back. Now, on to the next thing. You have to remember that context is king here. AI is not going to remember your life. It's not going to remember your business. It's not going to remember the last input that you asked for it. It's not even going to remember the values that you have unless you reinstate them or actually pipe them into your personal settings. When you actually repeat key facts, AI is really going to perform better. Now, when you assume what AI should know, AI is going to make an ass out of itself. The performance is literally going to drop. You're not going to see those outputs that you're really looking for. Now, if you actually treat AI, your model, like it's a brilliant contractor with a short-term memory, then you actually will end up getting better output. You know, brief your AI, brief your model properly, or expect a whole entire rework of what you're trying to get out of it. And on to the next one here. Verification matters. Now, the reason verification matters is because it matters more than verbosity. It will happily give you a long answer that sounds right even when it's wrong. The upgrade move here is that you want to ask for sources, assumptions, or confidence levels. For instance, I always ask ChatGPT to cite the sources that it uses when I ask for a research or a case study that I'm looking up. I always ask the OpenAI or ChatGPT or any one of these other models to actually give me sources. That way, I know it's actually being backed up, and I can actually prove these case studies to my audience, to you guys actually watching this video, and show you that what is happening here is actually happening here in real time. Not only that, at the least, when you force AI to show its thinking or justify claims, the error rate is going to drop. So, in other words, in layman's terms, once again, make AI explain itself like you would a junior analyst, or pretend you're a college professor and you're having all your students write a midterm, or you want your students to give a lecture. Have them prove themselves with the sources cited. Next thing here is use it for leverage, and not authority. Yeah, you can end up using AI to build authority online. A lot of people use AI to build authority online to make it seem like they're King Kong and they're beating on their chest like, I'm the ultimate, right? But in reality, you want to make it give you leverage more than anything else. Now, these open AI models, they're best at synthesis more than anything else. pattern spotting, drafting, pressure testing ideas, and that's what you really want to do. Before I go any further into this, you really want to pressure test everything that you input into your OpenAI model, whether it's whether it's OpenAI, GPT, whether it's Claude, Gemini, Anthropic, and I always say anthropic, but Anthropic. What else? Nano Banana. Always pressure test these things. Now, just moving on, just so you know that because at its weakest, being the final arbiter of truth, especially for a niche, new, or hyper specific facts, that's where it's going to show its weakest points at. You know, if you're not being open-minded with your AI, you just want your open AI, you want your model to spit out the final truth. It's not gonna be a good look at all. It's not. You know, the power move is actually having human judgment, actually thinking, because a lot of people use AI to think for them instead of them actually coming up with a prompt. I've literally seen this firsthand. I've literally seen witness people actually ask ChatGPT or Kimmy or what's another one? One of the other ones that I mentioned before earlier in this to craft a prompt so they can use that prompt and just input what it is that they needed to for the model to spit out. And that's one of the worst things you can do because again, the power move is human judgment here plus AI acceleration. Anyone outsourcing thinking entirely is setting themselves up to get embarrassed publicly. And trust me, I've been there, and you can't really avoid embarrassment. And I'm not talking about when it comes to using AI. I'm talking about in my earlier years of being in the marketing field and being a marketing consultant and then going into door-to-door sales and doing all these other things, right? Trust me, you can't avoid embarrassment, but it will embarrass you. Now, moving on to the next thing here, you want to build feedback loops. When I get something wrong, I will want my model to correct it. Same thing. When my model gets something wrong, I'm going to want to correct it. And that's going to improve the future interactions immediately. You're going to see a difference. Even if it does not retain or restrain anything, or if, excuse me, if it doesn't retrain the global model. Uh, from here, you're going to really want to fine tune and effectively fine tune your local instance through interaction. So pretty much talk to your model like it's a friend. Talk to your model like it's another person. Like have a conversation with your model, but at the same time, make sure you're having clear, concise conversations with your model. Let's see here. In other words, it's like having a relationship. I'm not wanting to. Is you want to train your relationship and not the actual machine. Train, train it. Plain and simple. Uh, Another thing, when using your AI models, this is one that I've actually done a lot here. Actually, you want to force uncertainty into the open. You know, if you ask your model for absolute, like the finite questions and finite answers, excuse me, it'll give them to you. But even when reality is problematic or problematic, let me use that. That would be a better word to use. You know, if you ask your model for ranges, risk, or trade-offs, you're going to get a higher quality output. You know, and this actually goes into stoicism as well. And this is stoicism in practice when you think about it. You know, control what can be controlled and acknowledge what can't be controlled. This frame rate thing is getting on my nerves here. So another thing you want to do is chain the work, like a chain gang. Chain the work. You know, don't ask for the answer off rip in one shot. You know, ask for a draft. Ask it to craft you something. Ask it, hey, draft me this, draft me that, craft this, craft that. That way you can actually reword it in your own words if you feel the need to. You know, you can even critique it if you want. And if you're done doing all that, or you want to go into even further, ask for improvements on it. What's going to make it sound better? What's going to make it sound more cynical? What's going to make it sound more nerdy? What's going to make it sound professional? What's going to make it sound more human? What's going to make it sound more street? What's going to make it sound more urban? You know, and after you do all that, stress test it. Stress test it. Your model is going to get sharper when the task is broken into stages. This mimics how humans actually think. And your model is going to get very good at in in imitating. Excuse me, I had a brain fart there. It's going to get good at imitating that when it's actually being guided. So coming down to the last one here, after this one. This one I kind of want to go off the dome, but I'm going to read my notes here. You want to ground your model in reality. You don't want to have your model thinking it's going to be fucking delusional and going off into Delulu land and La La land and all that. And you want to do this whenever possible. And whenever possible, anchor requests with real documents. Anchor your requests with real files, real images, whatever it is that you're using, real data, real examples. These abstract prompts that you may see out here, those are going to produce abstract bullshit at the end of the day. But if you actually give it concrete inputs, you're going to get a usable output. You're going to produce a usable output. And if it exists in the world, feed it to it. For instance, I was doing research on, what was it? What was the last thing I was doing research on? I was doing research on the ocean. That's what it was. How we've only explored 5 to 10% of the ocean. There's still more out there that we have to explore. I would take that same mindset and apply that to my model, my AI model here. Now, finally, understand the ceiling, the hard ceiling at that. Your OpenAI model, it does not have instincts. It doesn't have a lived experience, or let alone accountability. I will believe that your OpenAI model is probably the biggest narcissist of all time. So it can't, in other words, it can't replace wisdom. It can't replace being a human. It can only amplify it. It's gonna, in other words, your edge here is going to be discernment. That means you, the person. The model's edge is going to be speed and synthesis. If you actually combine those two, it's kind of like what I was saying in one of my videos in marketing what marketing is going to be like in 2026 as of right now. It's going to be the old school mixed with the new school. It's the same thing here. You're going to combine them, and you're going to eventually get an unfair advantage over your competition, even though I really don't think of people as competition. Not only that, if you confuse them, you're going to get really a bunch of expensive ass nonsense in reality. So the bottom line here, literally the bottom line here, is you improve the model by being precise, skeptical, iterative, literative, and grounded. Treat your model like a high-powered intern with infinite amount of stamina and zero common sense unless instructed. I'm plain and simple. There's no other way for me to put this here. And manage it well. Print leverage with it. Manage it poorly, you're just going to end up printing words. Plain and simple. But with that being said here, those are literally all the notes I have here. Those are literally all the notes that I have on this topic. Now, what actually made me do this video here was something I was reading in the AI Business Summit group that I'm a part of, due to Alicia's AI Business Summit taking place tomorrow. One of the questions in there was, how can I get better outputs with my model, with my AI source that I have? And that was the reason why I wanted to make this video. And 9 times out of 10, this question was already answered in the group but I wanted to take it outside of the group, and for those who are following me, who do watch these videos, to actually understand that AI is only as good as you. AI is only going to put out what you put into it. So again, let me reiterate this. If you put in garbage, you're going to get garbage back. If you put in diamonds, you're going to get diamonds back. So again, not training, but what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Treat treat your model like you nurturing it like it's a baby, pretty much, and you want it to grow. You want it to improve. Treat it like that. Treat it like it's a friend. Talk to it like it's a friend, and you'll probably end up getting better answers out of it. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of this live or this video. Deuces, I'm out. Y'all be easy.